So our next speaker, as John indicated, is Naomi Frauenfelder. Naomi is the CEO of Healthy Heads in Trucks and Sheds, and Naomi will cover the state of mental health and wellbeing in the Australian supply chain. Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you very much, Pam. So hi to everyone. I hope I've seen the agenda and I hope it's a really great day. I'll only be here for this session just to give you a bit of a run through on Healthy Heads in Trucks and Sheds. So thank you for the opportunity. Just by way of background, I started at Healthy Heads in January this year, so I've been there for about 8 months. And prior to this, I spent about 9 years with the TrackSafe Foundation, which I actually heard mentioned in the intro. So a rail industry not-for-profit addressing suicide on rail and trauma to train drivers. And then I joined Healthy Heads this year, so obviously bring to it a background in mental health and I guess industry efforts to improve mental health and wellbeing outcomes. But I guess road transport or trucking and logistics was brand new to me after spending almost a decade in the rail industry. So I'll get started and we'll just check that the AVs are working. I'm assuming I'm on the next slide. Awesome. Great. Thank you. So by way of background, Healthy Heads was launched in August 2020. So we actually just celebrated our first birthday. And it basically came about in response to the poor state of mental health across the industry. And the next slide has a few of those statistics on it. But basically, it was recognition at a CEO level that more could be done to try to support staff that were working in, be it trucking, warehousing or logistics. And really it's to have a very sort of national and holistic approach in addressing the issues to try to create healthy, happy and thriving working environments for all of the people that work in the sector. So these statistics, I guess, represent what's happening in the sector. So a lot of these come from the SuperFriend Thriving Workplace report. So this is a sort of survey that's done every couple of years where they look at a number of different sectors. So actually 19 sectors, and they survey people working in those industries to establish, I guess, a thriving workplace index and how each sector's sitting. So transport, postal and warehousing is ranked 19 out of 19 industries for having a mentally healthy, thriving workplace. And these are some of the statistics from that report. So in general, if you're just talking about the general population, you would say that 1 in 5 people in Australia experience a mental health condition or challenge at some point. At 44.8% in our industry, it's closer to 1 in 2. And probably what's even worse, 38.2% of those workers who do experience a mental health condition have said their workplace caused it or made it worse. So quite, I guess, sobering statistics there. Heart attack, heart disease and suicide are the 3 leading causes of death in the industry. And I guess when you think about the fact that you can't really separate out physical health and mental health, that sort of paints more of the picture there. Mental health is the second highest disability claim. And I guess then we move to the safety implications of this. So drivers with depression are 7 times more likely to have been involved in a crash. So, I mean, I guess this is the why for Healthy Heads in Trucks and Sheds being established. And it really came as a push right across industry. In the intro, I heard other programs being mentioned, such as the AusHelp Health and Gear project. So there's lots of different initiatives and programs happening, which are awesome, and we work really closely with all of them. But basically, I guess the role of Healthy Heads is to be the very national overarching umbrella body. So we were founded by Woolworths, Coles, Toll Linfox, Ron Finnemore Transport, Australia Post and Cube. So basically these 7 founding members got together to establish Healthy Heads. And I should note that it's very much been driven by Woolworths. So it would have been over 3 years ago now. They put together a voluntary steering committee and invited others from right across industry to get involved as they led the establishment of Healthy Heads. We then have our sponsors that are supporting us in all of the work that we're doing. So NTI and Frasers are two of our foundational sponsors. So they were there from the very beginning. And then we've got tiered sponsorship. So open road, national highway, state road, and local road sponsors. As you can see, we've got companies from the industrial property space, such as Charter Hall, ESR, Growth Point, as well as manufacturers such as Daimler and Volvo. So you can see that all parts of the supply chain have gotten involved in supporting Healthy Heads. We've also got industry partners. So these are more, I guess, sponsors are more those organisations that are working with or selling into industry. Industry partners are probably more your traditional participants within industry, so trucking companies and others, and notably the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, NHVR, are one of our funding partners and have been really actively engaged with what we're doing. And I think it's a really great example of industry and regulators working together to address pretty major issues. In terms of our board, so Paul Graham is from Woolworths. I mentioned earlier that Woolworths very much led the establishment of Healthy Heads. And so then Paul took on the role as chair. He is leaving Woolworths in September to take on the CEO role at Australia Post. So busy man, but extremely committed to the cause. And even in his new role, Australia Post is one of our founding partners, which is great because it means he'll be able to continue in his role as chair. Our deputy chair is Mark Parry, who's the managing director of Ron Finnemore Transport, who are head officed out in Wodonga. And basically, so there's 10 directors there. 7 of them are our founding member company representatives with 3 independents. So Lachlan Benson from Blue Arcadia was the consultant that was hired to establish Healthy Heads and then served as the interim CEO and did a huge amount of awesome work in terms of forming partnerships and, I guess, stakeholder engagement right across industry. Jeff Crouch, I'm sure, might be known to many of you. He's on the ATA board and chaired it for a number of years. And then we've also got Paul Ryan from Teacho, which is training and education and also links back to the TWU. So as you can see, it's a really senior board. In terms of staffing, there are 4 of us. So I guess it's an example of super senior board, but then a really lean staffing model where we work really closely with industry. And then we've got these board directors that can provide in-kind support or provide staff to help us as we develop our projects. In terms of our patron, Lindsay Fox, I'm sure he doesn't need too much of an introduction to this audience, but he has been awesome. Particularly, he was involved in our launch video, which is on our website, but basically obviously has built his empire from the transport sector, but I guess starting as a 16-year-old buying his first truck, knows what the on-the-ground issues are and has spent his whole life working in the industry and is also very passionate about mental health. So he's been really great, particularly in, I guess, raising our profile when we initially launched, and we're very, very lucky to have him in our inaugural patron role. So basically, the Healthy Heads Work program is based around these 3 key pillars, which were established as we did that sort of, I mentioned Lachlan, the interim CEO, so was working with all the different stakeholder groups and companies across industry. And these were the 3 things that were coming up again and again, and that's where we focus our efforts. So training is increasing the number of people trained in mental health. Standards is looking at the standardisation of policies and regulation. So we work quite closely with NHVR as well as NTC on this. And then wellness. So this is helping the individual to be healthier from a diet and, I guess, more general wellbeing and mental health perspective. So our work program basically fits into, and all our projects fit into one of these 3 pillars. And we've then got working groups, which inform the work that we do. So I mentioned we've got quite a lean staffing model, but we've got 4 working groups. So one to represent each, I guess, of our 3 pillars. So they're not in order here, but training, education standards and wellness or wellbeing. And then the technology development committee basically sits across all 3 because it's looking at how technology can be used to implement what we're doing. And basically, there's probably 20 to 30 people on each of these groups. And so that's then industry's chance to inform what we're doing. So we meet quarterly at the moment and have sort of projects or work programs with each group. But then I guess these subject matter experts can come together for the meetings, then they can go back to their day jobs. And it's our job as Healthy Heads then to work with the mental health sector to develop resources and projects that we can then roll back out to industry. And so, yeah, I think pretty obvious what each group does in terms of being aligned to the pillars of work. And so one of the primary reasons for establishing Healthy Heads as part of this umbrella national holistic model is to develop the National Mental Health and Wellbeing Roadmap. And so this is something that we've developed and launched in May this year. We had an event with then Deputy Prime Minister Michael McCormack in Wagga to launch this roadmap. And basically it's an overarching 3-year strategy for what organisations can do to create psychologically safe workplaces. So there are some, I guess, quite specific industry mental health risk factors that might come with the nature of some of the roles within industry. So if you take the role of a truck driver, most of the truck drivers I've spoken to so far really love their jobs. They like being out on the road, having time by themselves. They take great pride in their vehicle. But it does come with, I guess, some risk factors that have impacts for mental health, such as the nature of the really long hours and fatigue and isolation that can come with that. And there's also, obviously, if you're a truck driver at Linfox, you've probably got pretty secure source of income there. But for more of the subcontractors, the owner-drivers, the family businesses, there's then the issues around financial pressure and the nature of contract work, sort of living contract to contract. Any driver who's out on the road could be exposed to a potentially traumatic event. So trauma and critical incidents, even if the truck driver isn't necessarily involved in the accident, they might be first on scene. So potential exposure to trauma there. And similarly with those working in warehousing or distribution centres, you've still got the nature of shift work, financial pressure. So there's a number of risk factors that I guess contribute to the statistics I was showing at the very start, which lead to us being ranked 19 out of 19 sectors for mental health. So this roadmap is basically, it's a drawdown from the Safe Work Australia framework, and basically it sets out 7 workplace strategies for what organisations can do to start to work to improve mental health. So from leadership all the way down to increasing awareness, and basically it's built around prevention, protection, support. So traditionally, there's been lots of focus on the support, I guess, aspect to all of this, which is EAP programs and supporting people once they might have become mentally unwell. This is still obviously critically important, but the aim of the framework within this roadmap is to do more upstream. So working more around prevention, doing things like building better workplace cultures, smarter work design, leadership capability, so that I guess you're more picking up issues or addressing things before people actually become mentally unwell. And then there's obviously protection, which is around building resilience and early intervention. And as I said, it's not to say support's still not critically important, but it's just part of a broader, I guess, organisational approach that we're seeing companies want to take. And so I mentioned that we launched it with the Deputy Prime Minister at the time in May. And basically, so the roadmap itself is the strategy document. It's available on our website for free to download for anyone. And it basically sets out strategic guidance and support for creating psychologically safe and thriving workplaces. Underneath that, we've got a member charter. So this is, I guess, something symbolic that the CEO can sign and display in their offices to demonstrate to their staff that it's something they take seriously and that they're working to move through this maturity model and best practice framework. We've also got operational guidelines that sit under the roadmap. So basically, if you are the head of wellbeing at Coles. You can take the guidelines, you can look at what your organisation's already doing and then start to map against them of where you might want to make improvements. Do you need to train more staff in mental health? So you might set some targets around mental health first aiders or even a general mental health course for all of your staff. So it's basically, it's operationalising the roadmap with, I guess, ability to then create policies and business rules. And then underneath that, we've developed handbooks. So these are for people leaders as well as workforce. And once again, it's distilling down further some of the information and principles in the document. So it becomes then really, really easy to action, easy to implement tools and tips for your truck driver or shed worker, such as, you know, how many glasses of water have you drank today? Eating healthy food, exercising, connecting with friends or family. And then there's also resources at the back, so links to Beyond Blue and Lifeline. And so as part of this, we also launched membership to broader industry. So you saw on the first couple of slides, I guess, the big companies that are funding us, but basically very much the ethos behind the organisation is that the top end of town sort of have established and funded Healthy Heads, but it is because, I guess, they've got the knowledge and the resources and the know-how to do so. But everything we develop is for broader industry. So through membership, companies can come on board. So I guess the smaller businesses that may not have, you know, $50,000 to give in sponsorship, but for $250 to $500, they can come on board as a member and they get access to the guidelines and the handbooks. And then we made it free for individuals to join and access those handbooks. So this is for owner drivers or individuals within businesses or companies that, I guess, want access to the handbooks and also want to then, I guess, go on the list to receive tools and resources and information as it becomes available. So, yeah, to summarise, roadmap is the strategy piece, free for everyone on our website. And then to access these resources, you can join as a member as a business for $250 to $500 a year, and for individuals it's free. So really anyone, and this is, I guess, speaks to the point that it's really more about providing industry resources that they might need. And so, yeah, funded by the top end of industry, but I guess for broader industry, which is why we're making things freely available for everyone to access. So I guess being that it's a 3-year strategy, these are the kind of outcomes we want to be seeing within 3 years. So there's this best practice framework within the roadmap. We want to see it adopted and supported by organisations. And we're now, as Healthy Heads, looking at how we can undertake that piece of work, hosting webinars, providing information sessions, basically, because I think it can be overwhelming, particularly in COVID. Everyone's getting absolutely slammed. The industry's never been busier. So I guess in this climate, what can we be doing to support organisations that do want to take some steps to implement the roadmap? I mentioned we are ranked 19 out of 19 sectors for mental health. We would like to ultimately, I guess, move up that ladder and at some point become a leader. I think everyone's probably quite aware that over the last 10 to 15 years, the industry's come a really long way in terms of physical safety. We want to make it that mental health is as every day in the sector as safety is, because safety's now got that kind of exposure, and we want mental health to be the same, which will help normalise it and reduce stigma. Research evidence base of positive mental health intervention. So there's lots of good work that's gone on, particularly the driving health study that Monash has done with the TWU and Linfox, where 1,400 drivers were interviewed, and there were some really great findings in that. And now we're sort of saying, okay, so we've sort of established what a lot of the problems are, but what are some of the positive interventions that might be able to be put in place? And finally, it's driving a change against those risk factors that I set out that inform the development of the roadmap. I think I've just got 2 slides left. So this one is our current projects in focus areas. So we're looking to establish a 1-800 Healthy Heads line. This is a proposal we've done with Lifeline that we're ultimately seeking federal funding for, I guess being that there's 1.2 million people in the industry, and the driving health research that I mentioned. And I guess anecdotally, we know that truck drivers want to speak to, if they're going to reach out to someone, they want it to be someone that understands the industry. potentially has been in the industry themselves and so can empathise with the issues. There's many people that might be within a truck driver's family or might be retired that want to give something back. So we've developed this proposal with Lifeline for a dedicated line for those in industry, where Lifeline would train up volunteers that are from the industry. And it's something that's been done with bushfires, for example. Lifeline had a dedicated line. So we'd be looking to do something similar for industry. And Industry Are You OK Day. So this is, I guess, being that it's a very male-dominated and ageing workforce, this is looking to start to normalise that it's okay not to be okay, and help seeking as well as reducing stigma. So this would look to be an annual campaign in November every year before, I guess, many companies are going into their peak time. And it's just that reminder to be sort of looking out for yourselves, looking after yourself and others. Packer Australia has donated a truck to us to do sort of on-the-road activation events and supporting mental health awareness campaigns. We are waiting for COVID. So I'm based in Melbourne, so in lockdown, and a couple of my staff are based in Sydney, so equally in lockdown. But basically, we will develop a program of work. So being able to go to, I guess, rest stops, run sort of different regional events, because many of you are probably aware there's about 53,000 trucking companies in Australia and about 50,000 of them make less than 2 million a year. So this is about getting out to regional and remote areas to access a number of the smaller businesses, I guess, where truck drivers are doing their jobs. So, yeah, through rest stops, roadhouses, running events, which will basically be to promote mental health, provide information, as well as sort of networking connection opportunities also. And we've also got a training and education portal on our website. So I've mentioned that in the roadmap, companies might identify that there are areas where they could improve. And, you know, for example, do they want to train more staff in mental health? So we have been working with many different providers in the mental health sector to develop, I guess you'd call them tailored training courses for those in industry. So we've got a partnership with Lifeline, and we've tailored one of their sort of general mental health awareness courses, and it's now available on our training portal on our website. We've just piloted with our training and education working group a program of training with Black Dog Institute, which is more geared at managers. So it's called Managing for Team Wellbeing, so more for that level. And we're also working with Mental Health First Aid Australia and others. So basically the idea is that we've got a portal of different training courses on our website that have all been tested and piloted by industry, so that if companies are looking to upskill employees, they can sort of go to that portal and look at the different courses and also understand that they've already been specifically tailored for the industry and choose something from there. We also excitingly earlier this week launched our app, the Healthy Heads app. So this is also an extension of the roadmap strategy and the handbooks, and has the capability to do a wellbeing check-in. It's free and downloadable through the iOS store for iPhones, as well as the Google Play Store for Android. And it's also got a plethora of information on there and tools and tips and strategies. And also I would note it's the first iteration of the app, and we're still working with the app developers on building the next release. So there'll be, I guess it's quite a simple one to start with. It's getting familiarity with doing wellbeing check-ins, as well as providing a source of further information. But ultimately, we're looking at what else can be offered through the app. And one of the ideas is having a GPS capability that's mapped out rest stops, so drivers know when they're close to one, maybe the ability to rate them as well. Obviously, that would be a massive piece of work. And we're talking to NHBR as well as GS1, who have just released their national location registry about sort of the data and how we do it. And other things we're looking at too is audio content. So I guess drivers are driving, they've got limited time to be sitting there on their phone. So can we do audio versions of the handbooks I mentioned that they can play? Can we embed relevant industry podcasts? So lots to come, but excitingly, we've got the first iteration out there just this week. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. This is obviously a photoshopped slide. But ultimately, I think that would be the panacea for the board, is at some point having Healthy Heads accredited rest areas. And this means that they would have fitness equipment, washing machines, shower facilities, healthy food choices. So this one's not going to happen quickly. But I mean, in all of the conversations I've had with drivers, particularly we had a stand at the Brisbane Truck Show where we launched our membership offering. And I had a number of conversations with drivers that work in, I guess, long haul versus other sort of roles. And consistently, what I was told was rest stops continue to be one of the biggest challenges, and I'm sure that's not new to anyone in the crowd there. And lots of organisations have sort of said that this is a priority and that more needs to be done. But no, I guess it is a challenging space. So this is looking at what we might be able to do with the relevant players in the field to really sort of shift the dial on what is available to drivers. And with that, that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Naomi. Now it looks like we have a little bit of time to ask questions at this point. So does anybody have any questions for Naomi? I think she can see us in the audience.
I can.
Cool. With that, we're 19th out of 19. Who were the other sort of organisations that we're talking about, the other industries?
So it was other sectors. So as in, I would need to dig out the report, but they were just comparing, I guess, probably like retail, mining, construction, like major sectors.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Naomi. And we will have a short little break, just waiting for our next presenters. And yes, thank you again, Naomi.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day.